Okay, so today I was thinking, what is it that I'm feeling pulled to talk to you about? And having just celebrated our anniversary, our wedding anniversary. So my husband and I have been married for 18 a year, beautiful years now. Of course, it came with its own sets, as all relationships, ups, downs, middles, arguments, fights, love, all of that. So grateful for our marriage and the relationship we have. And so, with that being said, I thought, why not talk about manifestation, but specifically, so I'm going to come at it from two angles. I'm going to speak to those of you who are manifesting your soulmate, your partner. And for those of you who are already in a committed relationship, perhaps you have been with someone for years now, maybe you're engaged and looking to take that next step. And so this is more so for you if you're serious about either finding a soulmate, your partner, or if you're in a relationship and you're like, okay, how do I make it juicier, right? So, one of the things that I notice about the women I tend to attract into my world is that a lot of you are high achieving women, which is beautiful. But from that place also, from being a high achiever and someone who's very independent, is it can be quite intimidating for a lot of men. So this of course, I'm not going to say, hey, I want you to downplay that. Absolutely not. I want you to shine your light. I want you to shine bright. But what I am going to say is that in a relationship, being the woman in the relationship, we want to be in our empowered feminine. Okay. I'm not talking about the disempowered feminine. So you're still going to be in feminine, your empowered feminine, and allow your partner, your husband, your fiance, your committed boyfriend to take the lead. So that way he can be in his masculine. This doesn't have anything with being submissive. This doesn't have anything with like, I'm supposed to bow to him. I'm supposed to treat him like a king. My belief is my husband, for me personally, my husband is my king. I'm his queen. I want to be able to stay in my empowered feminine. And so just a little bit of background for those who are maybe newer to my space is that I grew up in a very unstable um, environment as far as my father, my biological father was concerned. He was in and out of my life, and my past relationships was clearly marked by, for those of you who also maybe struggle with daddy issues, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You're striving to feel loved, to feel worthy, to feel like all these things. And in the process, because you never had that example of what it looked like to be in a healthy relationship where there's stability, is that we often attract a lot of chaos. We also attract a men who are not able to provide. And part of that has to do with the fact that we have become so dependent on ourselves. And I know that for a lot of you, that's also true. You had to grow up a lot faster. You may have to do some providing for your family. I know in my case, I had to provide for my mom and then my brothers. And so I took on that role from a young age. And so entering into relationship, I didn't know what it felt like to be provided for. And so as a result of that, I often enter into a relationship and I was the one who was doing the providing. And then sure enough, shortly afterward, I got sick and tired of that. Why isn't he like leading all these things? But I was continuously attracting that. And I remember even when I was like in college and I did I was in better relationships, started like learning a little bit about myself. And then I, was in a relationship where I was provided for. And then I repelled that because of the fact that I didn't know what it felt like to be provided for, that is safe. Think about how much trust we have to have as a woman who has gone through something like that, who haven't built that type of relationship with a male figure especially a caregiver, specifically your father, who it was intended to be the provider for the family, and he stepped out. He'll come in and out of your life. He may not show up. He wasn't consistent. There was just no safety. And what's the masculine supposed to do? The masculine is supposed to provide safety in a relationship. I want you to hear again. The masculine is meant to provide safety within the relationship. So when that is lacking in a relationship, there are conversations that has to be had with you and your partner about the need that what it is that you need, not what he did. So that was something I had to learn to do. So I know I talked a bit more about Barry Kaufman's work, which has completely transformed my life. Between Barry Kaufman's work, I would say like Jesus, Barry Kaufman's work, and then my husband, like Barry Kaufman, or maybe my husband first and then Barry Kaufman. But his work really transformed my life, and that has to do with your mindset, your belief system, really going in deep with doing the inner work, understanding myself, why I was triggered the way I was triggered. And for us in our relationship, every single trigger I had, most part, was because my husband did something, said something that even was close. Like I would get so triggered because it reminded me of my dad, my biological father. It reminded me of something he did. It reminded me of something he said. It reminded me of his arguments with my mom. It reminded me of just different things about him. I've already worked through that. I have forgiven him. I have moved past that because, and that's something else I also want to say is, I was um someone else's work who I highly just I would say I absolutely love is Tony Robbins' work. And one of the things he really talks about is you have to forgive the people who have hurt you, not for their benefit, but because you are where you are who you are. You're the woman you are today as a result of who they were, how they treated you. Because I can tell you right now that I would not have the persistence, the resilience, the leadership, the ability to do what I do now. I may not be here right now in the same space, in the same moment, if it was not for my biological father. Okay? And so this has nothing to do really with them. It doesn't make it okay what they did. But because when you release that, it is so freeing. And sometimes, here's the thing about forgiveness work that I realize sometimes you're going to do it over and over again. Oftentimes you will. I find myself like, I remember when I was going through forgiveness with my dad, it was, I would forgive him for one thing. I would have a dream about something else. And then I wake up and I'm angry and then I had to forgive him for that. And then I'm in a space now where he can choose to be a part of my life. I have allowed that door to be open. Um, and he's kind of chose to maybe every few years I might hear something from him, but that's a choice and that's okay. I can live with that now because I'm fulfilled. I know who I am in Christ. I'm of faith, love Jesus, love that I have a heavenly father who loves me and cares for me in the way where I never received that from, my earthly biological father. Okay. And then what was very interesting, so enough with that, was then my mom did end up, getting remarried, finding someone else, and then an amazing stepdad who I really love and adore. But when I first met him, I know what you're thinking. You were hard on him. Absolutely. Of course. And that man has just shown me time and time again how committed he is to my mother. And I just love seeing how much he adores her, how much he provides for her. Providership. Okay. Again, providership. In the masculine provides. the masculine gives you a sense of safety. How you can allow more of the masculine to show up is actually by being in your feminine. The feminine is nurturing and caring. That's something we have to work on as women when we enter into those relationships is we do have to be more in our masculine. I'm sorry, more in our feminine because we're meeting the masculine. Because if you're in your masculine and then you want your partner to provide for you, but if you're in your masculine, it automatically what happens to them is they're confused. They can't fully be in their leadership. They can't fully lead. They can't fully provide. They can't fully provide you safety. They can't fully like care for you and lavish you and love on you because there's a part of you that's resistant to it. So if you have any underlying issues internally, all of us, honestly, I feel like we do, especially for those of you who had a father who was in and out of your life, who was not a part of it, who just chose not to take on that role. There's a lot of hurt there. So I highly recommend if you're ready, have worked with a therapist through it, and you just feel like I just really need more support there. I do have a course for you down below. It's called Cultivating Meaningful Relationships. And it really just helps you to understand relationships from that level of how you perceive things, how you perceive others, and as a result, your relationship with yourself. Because ultimately, it really does start with us. It starts with us understanding ourselves. Because I can tell you right now, hand over heart, I remember it was probably 10 years or something or so ago. And my husband and I had one of the biggest fights we've ever had. But what I honor so much for him in that moment was when I said, we need help in our relationship. I don't even remember now what triggered it, but it just felt like we were constantly fighting, oftentimes about kids, oftentimes it was about money, but there was always this ongoing battle. It didn't feel like we were a team. I knew having someone come in and just support us was going to be invaluable to us. And so I brought that up for him. And I kid you not, this man, I love him so much. And this was already when I started doing the work. I had already um, dove into, Barry Kaufman's work, really getting that kind of guidance, trying to figure out like, okay, what's going on? Like with me, with us. And my husband so graciously said, yes, let's do it. I'll do anything for us. And he meant it. And in that moment, it gave me so much confidence in us, in our relationship, because he knew how much it meant to me to feel like I'm not going crazy. I didn't just make all this stuff up in my head that he cared enough to say, this is uncomfortable for me, but I'm willing to do what it takes because we matter. Like us as a unit matter to me. Okay. So my invitation to you would be if there is right now, it just feels like there's a lot of conflict in your relationship. I want to invite you to just first, just go in. And I want you to look at the situation. Perhaps it just feels big right now. It feels like it might just be like too much. Okay. I want you to actually take time to dissect each one, not from a place of blame, but from a place of fact. Okay. So there's feelings we have. We take that as fact. There's thoughts that we have, and we're like, that must be what it is. But instead, it's like, we were having, you know, the kids were downstairs. We were having dinner, and then he said this, and his tone was off, and I took it to mean blank. That's how clear I want you to really bring it down to why. Because we assign meaning to everything, and our meaning is then what causes us to feel the feelings that we do. Sometimes he didn't even mean that. That's not what he intended, but his tone was off. And so my thought was this. What are facts? Facts are we were at dinner and this is what he stated. No, that's his fact. This is what he stated. And I treat it from this place of neutral. So you want to do that with some of the things that came up because it starts helping you to gain clues as to what it is that's really triggering you. What's coming up for you? Right? Because then that allows you, it's like, okay, is it something within me that I really need to work on? And for both of you, I honestly feel like in most relationship, it's both. Like you have stuff you need to work on, he has stuff he needs to work on. But he has to realize that those are things that he needs to work on. You say, oh, well, it's because of, that time your mom did that thing, and then because here's the thing, we all have different events in our life that may have been traumatic. And yes, things happen to us, but it's about what we do with them. Do you then allow because something happened, your parents were, got a divorce, it made you believe what? It made me believe that the marriage isn't going to work anyways, that happiness isn't really possible. You need to get clear on not only what it is that you want to manifest. You want to manifest, like maybe the vision you have is in your relationship. I want you to get clear on the vision you have for your relationship. What does that look like on a day-to-day basis? I want you to break that down. So that way, one, you're on the same page, and two, it helps you to see if you're moving towards it. And then also help you identify what it is that is causing a lot of the breakdown in communication. It's causing one of you to have your feelings hurt, or maybe you're constantly getting into arguments, whatever that may be. And it's going to help you then to have clues as to where I may have been too much in my masculine. I haven't been actually in my feminine. I haven't been allowing myself to receive. I haven't allowed myself to be provided for and cared for. Okay. So it always starts with you getting clear on, when I talk about even the manifestation process for anything, and oftentimes it's more so with money. And so this is my first time really inviting you into my relationship is as I was thinking about, I remember in that season, I was thinking through what is my vision for our marriage? What is it that I actually want? And then for him, also doing the same, it allowed us to be in sync on what it is that we desire out of our marriage. What do we want our conversations to look like? What do we want our conversations to look like when things are bad? This is so important. We gloss over things like, how do we want to approach each other when I'm angry? And for me, it was very, very important that when he was upset, I could not handle the silent treatment. I could not handle the silent treatment because of what I have experienced in the past. That's very triggering for me. And this, I just to illustrate how triggering this is for me, is, I'm talking about being super independent is as soon as something happens, my first response is I'm going to check my bank account. How much money do I have? Do I have enough to take care of myself and the kids? Where am I going to move? Where am I going to live? Do I have enough to take care of myself? That's actually where my brain automatically goes. Why? Because of what I experienced in the past with my biological father. And it was something I had to walk my husband through. Like, this is what I've experienced. And my dad, I told him, my biological father, oftentimes, my parents didn't speak, they didn't communicate. So he would then give her the silent treatment. Shortly after the silent treatment, he would leave. So my brain, when you're upset, I need the reassurance that you're going to stay. See how clear that is? I need the reassurance. My brain know, like there's the conscious part of me that knows you're not going to take off, that wants to believe you're not going to take off. But because of my past trauma, my experience, I need to feel safe. It is the masculine's job. The masculine has to provide safety. You don't communicate that, but for you, you would just explain, like, you know, I want us to have a plan for when we get into an argument because we will. It might sound silly, but what I need is I need to feel safe. In order for me to feel safe, I just need a hug from you. Or in order for me to feel safe, I need you to just tell me you're still here, whatever that is. But there has to be a way for you. It's kind of like when people get prenups. I know people have like their own thoughts around prenups and stuff like that. I didn't have a prenup, but I understand so much more about prenups now. Um, the reason people do that is because you're making decisions before it happens. When you both are invested in each other and you love each other, it's the same. We're in a good place. I love you so much. I don't want to dishonor you when we're in the middle of a fight. So you're going to have some ground rules, right? So when we fight, one of the things I don't want us to do is get into an argument in front of the kids. I don't want us to yell at each other. What I do want them, they can see us that we're upset. What I'm open and willing to do is, depending on what the topic is for us to have a conversation in the living room so that way we can demonstrate to our children what it looks like to have healing conversations with another adult. Okay? Because that's something we do. We allow them to see, unknowingly that, we're a little upset, annoyed by each other. Later on that day, it doesn't have to be immediate. Okay. So what my husband needs from me is he just needs space. He needs space. I need safety. So it's almost like he needs space. And I'm like, am I okay? Are we okay? Are we good? Because if we're not good, I'm leaving. Right? And he's like, I just need space. He's not thinking he's going to take off, but in his mind, he's like, I just need space. I just need breathing room. And so because he articulate, I need space. I just need room to breathe. Then for me, it's like, oh, he's still going to be here. So he can give me that reassurance through a hug, just to let me know he doesn't have to say anything, that he's here. Or he can say, I'm here, and then just walk away and still be mad, whatever that may be. Um, but what we allow in our relationship for our children to really see, to break, because we both came from families where communication's not easy, right? And so we want to demonstrate to our children what it looks like to have a healing conversation, to be in a relationship and talk through the hard parts of relationship. Because honestly, my belief is that if more couples were willing to have the hard conversations, versus like, oh, like this isn't the one, I'll just find another. Because the thing is, if you don't fix what's here and then be able to take it external. So what I mean by that is internally we work on ourselves. But if you want to really test and see if that work has worked, is you want to be in relationship with another human being. That's going to put you to the real test. And then it's, did this inner work actually, was I able to take it out and make it external? Was I able to effectively communicate what it is that I felt, what needs were not being met, what my desires are, in a way that doesn't dishonor the other person? So how do you do that? You do that by making sure that you're not attacking, because the feminine doesn't attack, right? We don't attack. It's like, I'm going to express what I witnessed and how it made me feel because of this is the meaning I attach to it. That's very important. This is what happened. I made it mean this. This is what it caused me to feel. So it's no wonder I started thinking this. Okay. Do you hear that? This took place. I made it mean this. So I started to feel sad or angry. And then my thoughts was, I need to pack my bags and leave. This event unfolded. Your voice was rising. I made it mean that you don't respect me. It made me feel angry. So I started to believe, I started thinking, I'm better off without him, or I'm better off being not being in a relationship, whatever it is. But I want you to be able to have those dialogues with your partner. Okay. And we do that. How do we start having those dialogues? We start having those dialogues by creating spaciousness for our partner to actually express themselves. And I know, especially if you tend to be more in your masculine, like I was, it's really hard for us to do because we can take care of ourselves. We're super independent. Who needs a man and all of this? And then we wonder why we get into relationships and it's like, I don't feel safe. I don't feel provided for. I don't feel loved. We're not creating the spaciousness, the environment for those things to take place. So one of the ways that we do that is having those types of conversations and saying, I really want us to have more open dialogues where we can talk to one another, where we can just speak, have a conversation with each other and not, and I don't want either one of us to feel attacked because I love you so much and I honor you and I love who you are. And I'm so grateful to you. I would never want you to feel that way, to feel like I don't care, to feel like anything less than the incredible person you are. And I love you so much. And so I noticed that we have been having more arguments than usual, or maybe you can even say, or I noticed that there's this just tension, or you can even use the word icky, whatever it is in our relationship and it doesn't feel good right now. And I want you to be happy. I want me to be happy. So I know that if we can come together and have these conversations once a week where we're just talking about life, talking about how the week went, just checking in on each other, that is going to create so much more depth and love in our relationship. How does that sound? See how you word it? You word it from this place of care, from being in your feminine. I love you so much. I value you so much. I honor you so much. I respect you so much. I want you to be happy. I want me to be happy. I want us to be good and be able to talk about things. So let's do a once a week check-in. You can do, so when my husband and I were first going through things, we would do a once in the evening, nighttime check-in. That was hard because of his work schedule, but we still were committed to like at least checking in at night, and then we'll have like a bigger check-in at like the end of the week. How are things going for you? How was work this week? Is there anything I can do? Remember the feminine. Is there anything I can do to support you? To feel loved, to just feel cared for. We all want that. And then our men want that too. They desire that, but they don't have necessarily the word for that, right? And then so we create this spaciousness for those conversations to take place. And now moving along onto other things, if you're in a relationship where, I think this has changed a little bit more so because more women now have entered the workforce, more women now have their own businesses. And so when we're thinking about how to allow him to stay in the masculine when perhaps you make more, or perhaps you're the breadwinner, or perhaps you make about the same amount and you're contributing quite a bit financially. So I'm going to invite you to do what works for you, but I want to encourage you to always try to stay in that receptive, feminine energy because from that place, you're just going to feel so loved and cherished by your partner, even if perhaps, you might make more. Perhaps you're manifesting a partner. So for those of you who are manifesting a partner, and there's almost like this part of you that's kind of afraid because you're like, wow, I'm actually doing really well in life. And then I need to find someone who like matches that energy and who's not going to bring me down and all that. The problem is that you're focusing on the fear of what it looks like to not be provided for, what it looks like to be with a man who basically can't provide for you. Your focus is, what does it feel like to be cherished, to be loved, to be provided for? Okay. So different ways that your husband, your partner, your soulmate can really provide for you and still give you that safety is if you're both bringing in money, right? Like both working, whatever that is, you can still allow him, and I would encourage you to allow him to cover the things that create stability, because the masculine does really well when they are able to provide and feel like the provider within the relationship. Okay. You never want your husband, your partner to feel like, oh, I don't need you. I don't need a man, right? Because that thought, that belief itself is so damaging to the masculine, to your partner, and also in turn it's damaging to you because now you're wondering why you're not able to manifest your partner, or in your marriage why you're wondering why you can't have that vibrant juicy relationship. You never want to be from a place of, I'm so ultra independent that I don't need you, and I want to make it known that I don't need you, because no one wants to feel, especially the masculine never wants to feel like they're not needed, because if he's not needed by you, when you think about it, if he's not needed by you, he'll find someone else who'll need him. Okay, that doesn't mean he'll leave you, but there's not fulfillment for him in the relationship in that capacity. And he needs that. He needs to feel like he's providing for the family. The masculine wants to provide. A healthy masculine wants to provide stability. Okay. So ways that he can provide are things that create safety. So if you have a mortgage, he can cover the mortgage. If you have like a car payment, he can cover the car payment. He can cover like the water bill. Those types of things, like when you think about it, it almost comes down to like bare necessities, but it allows him to stay in his masculine when he's providing for you. And the feminine, when those things that are being provided for, instead of, oh, of course he's provided for, it's like, oh, thank you. Thank you so much, honey, for providing us this life. I tell my husband that all the time. Thank you so much for providing for us, for taking care of our family. That doesn't take away from what it is that I also provide for the family. I want you to hear that. It doesn't take away from what it is that you provide for the family at all. But remember, our men in their masculine needs to know that they're providing and caring for our family in this way. So for me, I can still provide all the other stuff. I can provide for our vacations. I can make sure that, I'm constantly investing. I'm doing all these other things that I know to do, being the wealthy woman, right? That I talk about how you embody her, how you circulate money. I can still be wise with my money. I can still do all these things, but allow him to stay in the mask and allow him to provide for those things so he feels like the provider of the family. And one of the things I also do as well is when we go to nice restaurants, or any restaurants, and my husband is very honest, because we have once a week, every single week, what we do, we call it Financial Fridays. We meet together, we talk about our finances. So this is our intimate financial dates with each other. So when I go out with my husband, if he's not able to cover the tab, I don't get upset. I already know, because we already had like these conversations and I plan for it. So I'm not sitting there like, oh my gosh. Instead, I already know. We had conversations. And so for me, I never want to embarrass him. The masculine likes to provide. Respect for the masculine is so important, because if you want love, if you want to be cherished, if you want my husband, the things that he does, allow him to do and love, encourage him to do, because these are not things that came naturally for him because he didn't witness it. As a kid from his dad, he would open the doors for me. When I put on my coat, he'll put on the coat over my shoulder, make sure I'm cared for, make sure I'm loved. It allows him to stay in his masculine. And it allows me to just feel cherished and loved and dotted on as a woman. And so when the tab comes, I never pull out my credit card in front of the waitress. I find remember respect is really important to the masculine because it's almost like, oh, I'm taking care of it, right? And I know for him it's so important that he feels like he's taking care of it. So oftentimes what I'll do, like if it comes and there's a QR code, I'll just, you know, discreetly slide my phone over and then he can take care of like, taking a picture and writing it in, or I'll just like when the waitress is gone or waiter is gone, I'll just hand him my credit card and then he'll, take care of it and like sign and everything like that. And it doesn't bother me because I know what it is that he brings to the table. He brings a lot. I feel loved. I feel supported. I allow him to do those things so that way that he feel that providership energy that he has, he's able to stay in his masculine, which then frees him up to do things that makes me feel cherished and loved, like him pulling the chair out so I can sit down or opening the door for me, helping to put on like my jacket, things of that. That's just really sweet. And it just allows him to stay in his masculine energy. And in a home front, what that looks like is, he we pay for landscapers, so we don't have anyone that does landscaping. We do have cleaners that come in, so neither one of us really does like the deeper cleaning. But he does. I mean, 50, 60. I don't know. It's 50, 60 does not, it's like way over 100. Um, at our home, we both like really contribute to the household as well. And so, he does things like the laundry because I hate the laundry, but I'll do things like I'll clean the bathroom in between our cleaners coming in, just different things. Give me a second. Mm, I'm talking for a while. But all that to say, if there's doesn't feel like there's contribution in a home or things like that, highly encourage that you just have that conversation. Not everything has to land on a mom, not everything has to land on the wife. And likewise, is based off of what works for you and your family. But I want you to think about what allows me to feel like I'm in my feminine. When do I feel good? Is it when I go on dates? And then when you're looking at financial aspect, um, is it when I go on dates and the meal's covered by my partner? Is it just by going out on a date? Because like for me, whether or not he covers the tab, I mean I can do that. But I allow him still to sign regardless of whose credit card it is because we're married. And for me, it's treated like our income. I treat Latch Coaching LLC as our business. For a lot of women, I think there's almost like this push towards I did it and I did it all by myself. And for me, at beginning, I would say I probably bought into that a little. And then over time, I realized that no, it's our business because I couldn't do what I do without him. He takes care of the kids, he provides for them. So that way I can do things like record this for you. And so I want you to just invite you to have those conversations with your partner. Allow your partner to dot on you. Allow him to stay in his masculine. Allow him to feel like the provider. So that way you can be in your feminine. Okay. So I hope that was helpful for you. And for those of you who are manifesting, you're probably wondering, okay, I'm not in a relationship. What does this have to do with me? Everything has everything to do with you because this hopefully gives you more clarity on your relationship vision. What is it that you desire in a relationship? What does that actually look like? Not the, oh, that we were like, oh, I'm gonna have a partner and then he's gonna make me feel this way of these things. I want you to break it down to the day to day. What does that actually look like for you? Like for me now in our relationship, I always feel good if at least once a week we can connect. We do try to do lunch dates once a week if we can. Sometimes our weeks are busy, and then I have to kind of drag him a little bit to go do lunch dates with me. So if not, we at least try to connect at the end of the week. And so that's just one way that we just stay connected. Our finances are congruent. I believe fully. One of the things I will say for sure is an area that we fought a lot about was our finances. And they say, I think when it comes to divorce, is that oftentimes it has to do, like they say, a third of it is a result of finances. I would say, highly encourage you to do a financial date if you're both resistant to that. I do have some resources for you down below in the description. Highly recommend that you check them out to see if that's just going to be helpful for you to really begin digging into your own finances, where you are, just some blocks that are coming up around you with money. This isn't really the video that I'm going to talk about money blocks and how financial trauma, our experience and relationship with money often is what causes then for us to have this tension where we feel resistant to having financial dates, feel resistant to talking openly about money. So my invitation is if you can do that work first for yourself, really understand what are some of the blocks that are coming up. What are some of the money stories that I've been telling myself? What is my relationship with money? So a clear sign that you don't have a healthy relationship with money is actually when you're not willing to talk about it. Yeah, especially with your partner. Of all people who should have the most intimacy with, it's your partner. You want to be able to have open conversations with them about your finances. This was one area I also struggle with too. And so as you begin working on that yourself, you're going to realize just how healing that can be for both of you. So I have some resources for you down below if you're looking to dig in deeper. And I hope that this conversation was helpful. I'll catch you later, friends.